Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
We were talking about our favorite journalists, broadcast journalists, and TV people, and Meredith Vieria's name came up innumerable times. I've got to catch up with Meredith, says I to my producer, and she said, yeah, I've watched her on 25 Words or Less. She's always doing something, and most of you know that Meredith started as moderator of The View. The View, to me, exists because of Meredith. And then she became the host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the Today Show, 25 Words or Less going on now. And she's done some of the best shows with the best people in the industry, including her own show, the Meredith Vieria Show. So a lot has happened since I left you last. The kids have grown up. You're doing a zillion things. Fill me in.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's always such a pleasure to talk to you, Joan. I miss you very much. We have not caught up in several years, and boy, all of us have experienced a lot in the interim. Right. But big headline: my family's doing very well. We've maintained our health through these difficult times. Goodness. Fortunately, Richard, who you know is dealing with MS and has autoimmune issues, has been able to stay healthy. So he's been my number one priority. My reason for doing exactly what the CDC advises and wearing my mask and it's paid off. We are well, thank God. Knock on my wooden table here.
Right,
and our son Gabe, who was supposed to get married in 2020, his wedding was postponed because of the virus, but he was able to get married last September to the wonderful Allie. So we're thrilled. And he's actually a correspondent at CNN in D.C. So he's on his way. Yeah.
So what about the other one? Is he involved in it too?
No, our oldest Ben has developed a startup that has to do with climate change and the environment and property owners and how you deal with climate change and make your home safe and responsible. And he's just starting up. He's in the raise money phase. And I look at him and go, I would never do what you do. It's not for the faint of heart because it could all blow up in your face. But
tough. My daughter does that too. She loves startups. And I say the same thing. How can I can't ask people for money for charity. It's something I'm very bad at, right? And these kids go right out there and
it takes a particular kind of kid. You have to have first of all, you have to have a good idea, but you also have to have a lot of confidence in yourself and what you've created and be able to articulate that to folks. And understand that disappointment comes with this. And my son, he said, I get it. It may not work, but he said, I'll never know if I don't try. And
he's
I'm
right.
not surprised he went into that. Yeah. And then our daughter, Lily, she's marrying Charlie next month at our house.
Gosh, you're kidding. So you're having a big wedding or?
Well, it's probably going to be 150 maybe.
That's plenty.
But yesterday, all the vendors came, and when the porta potty guy arrived, I went, "Oh my God, this is real now!"
Right, it's becoming a deal.
Yeah. So, but we're very excited for her, and it means a lot to us that she chose her home. It's a very sweet thing. So
I know.
I hope it all works out well. I'm sure it will. So
it's going to work out fine, and you're right. It's a lovely thing that the home is a place that she feels so good about that.
Exactly.
She wants to do it. I love that. So fill me in with you? You're always doing something.
Well, I started on my fourth season of the game show 25 Words or Less premieres in September. So it's been an interesting ride because it's an LA-based show. So the first year we taped on the studio lot where I Love Lucy was filmed, and I would go every day, and all the buildings there are low, and they're not tall buildings, and they're all this pink stucco, and I think, oh my God, it's like going back in time, and it was so cool for me. I mean, I drank the Kool-Aid for LA. I love so much about it, and it's fun to be there because normally I'm in New York, and then COVID hit. So 2019, we actually did it, the show on a set. Then in 2020, our bosses were like, geez, we don't know what we're going to do. And my immediate boss said, do you have any place in your home that we could set up a camera, create a studio? And I said, we have a basement. And they came and they looked at it and they said, we're going to do this. And darn if they didn't, they did a fantastic job. And we were able to keep our show going. And because of COVID, not totally, but in part, people were home and they were looking for entertainment and they were channel surfing. And we found all these folks found us. And we were providing a little bit of fun for them, a half hour every day. It's a strip show, so it's Monday through Friday. And we started to build an audience.
Fabulous.
Because they were home, yeah. One of my favorite stories is we do every show we have a fan as part of the show through Zoom. And so I'm talking to this woman and I'm saying, so how did you come upon us? And she said, well, my mom and I have been obviously at home and we fell onto your show and we watched it and we looked at each other at the end and said, well, you know what? It's better than nothing. Oh, I said, well, okay, well, thank you.
Oh,
and that's our new tagline ever since then, because it was so adorable and it wasn't meant to be mean. It was just, that's what I love about just people, is they just say what they feel. And she was hysterical. And at the end of the day, she's right.
Oh, my God, that's so funny. It's such a backhanded compliment. But
exactly.
It's
summarizing television, too.
I know. And you've had more things going on in TV and started it. I was thinking about that today. Some of the major shows and things that happened were because you did them.
I don't know if you're giving me far more credit than I deserve, but I've just been lucky. I've been in the right place at the right time over and over. It's just, nobody could predict. It's been a funny career because I've gone all over the map. I started in news, then I moved over to The View and did that. Then I did Game with Millionaire, and I was doing the Today Show, back in news, but that's a hybrid, and then back into game. So I've sort of followed my passions at the moment. I've always felt like, why not? I tend to lead with yes most of the time, and I also, knowing what this business is like, thought it would be good to have a lot of skills, in your toolbox, a lot of tools in the toolbox so that, hey, you need a game show person? I'm your gal. Oh, you want something for talk? I can do that. News? Been there, done that. So I thought it was a good way to sort of beef up my professional resume. And I ended up loving them all. So it's been a nice ride.
But you also were willing to pay the price. Like, I have kids, who are always calling sort of all of us about where they can get a job or can we help them,
sure.
That kind of thing. And they want to start right at the top. But you started in Providence. You worked your way to New York. You've done a lot of due paying along the way.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the only way to go. It always amazes me, people who think they're entitled to the top job right away. There's a lot to be said about paying your dues and learning the ropes. The only way to do that is to start at the bottom and work your way up and work really hard and 10 times harder than the person next to you, and maintain your humility and be a good person, because it's a small business, and for no other reason than that, it's smart to always be kind. If you're not automatically kind, it just makes business sense to be decent to people, because you're going to see them again.
That's right.
And yeah, but a luck also, it played a big role in my career, and then knowing what to do with it when I got those moments.
Yeah, but even when you were working in Chicago, as I recall, you were a CBS journalist then. Yeah. And people started paying attention to you, in Chicago, not in New York, and it started paying off. Well,
but I was in Chicago for CBS News. I was in their bureau. I wasn't a local reporter. And the reason they sent me to Chicago, which did end up being a huge springboard for me, I had just gotten to the network. Dan Rather had recently been installed as the new anchorman, taking over for Walter Cronkite. And I was based in the New York bureau. I reported for work. But a couple of weeks before then, I had long hair, and I had gotten a perm. I wanted some body in my hair, and it didn't come out very good. So I went back to get it redone, which you never do with a perm, because what happened is my hair turned brittle. It started to break off.
Sometimes blows up.
It totally blew up. I had to cut it really short. I wore a hat every day. I started work at CBS News in January, and then finally one of the vice presidents walked by me. John Lane was his name, who ended up being a dear friend of ours. And he said, really should take the hat off. You're in the building. And I took off my ski cap or whatever. And I swear to God, I'll never be able to prove it, but that was on a Monday. He gave me a look, and by Thursday, Van Gordon Sauter, who was the head of CBS News at the time, called me in the bureau, the New York bureau, and said, we think we'd like to send you to Chicago. And I ended up going that weekend, crying. I'm in this freezing cold thing, but I figured, well, she'll have to wear the hat there. She'll be outside.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but as it turned out, that was during a recession, and the Farm Belt and the Rust Belt and all the Midwest was hurting so badly that I was on the air pretty much every day. So by the spring, I was like a known entity. It was people knew me, they knew my work. So it ended, the one time getting a bad perm pays off. I had it.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And of course, Meredith, during those years, she had young children. Many of us were in that boat, and we were torn between work and family. And how do you do? Some of us had bosses that would say, I get it, let me try to accommodate you. Others, we would hear, you come to work, your husband goes to work, and you had to make a difficult choice. And when you walked away from 60 Minutes, it was a huge conversation in this country.
It did. It did turn into a conversation on news programs and talk shows, and some people respected my decision. Some people vilified me for it, felt that, I was a poster child for women having it all, and I had sort of tossed that away, at least in their minds, because of my children. But, at the end of the day, I followed my heart, and I had, again, could go back to my son having faith in himself with his startup. I had enough confidence in myself to believe I would land on my feet, and enough love for my family or my priorities to know that if I didn't put my family first, I couldn't live with myself comfortably. I'm not criticizing anybody else's decision, but I knew for me
that you had
what
to
the decision had to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a big deal and a brave decision from what many people in the news business would consider the perfect dream job. And it was.
Yeah. And Don Hewitt, we butted heads. We ended up friends years later, but, he had no patience for the whole kid thing.
Right.
Because
you said he had a baby.
His baby was 60 Minutes. So we were both fighting for our babies. They were just different.
But you got through it. And then I was trying to remember, The View came at what point when you started as the original moderator?
The View came, I had my daughter, our youngest, Lily, and then I was approached by ABC News to do a documentary series called Turning Point that was hosted by Diane Sawyer, and I think Barbara Walters hosted it occasionally, and I was one of the correspondents. And I was doing long-form work and actually loving it. And Barbara had come up with this idea for a show, and she asked the people, the executives at Turning Point, both of whom were women, about me. And she said, "Is she funny?" And Betsy West, who has now gone on to do amazing movies like RBG, from CNN Productions. I mean, she's done amazing work in that format. She said, "Yeah, she's funny. She's a little like a nut, but she's funny and she's smart." And so Barbara said, she wanted a journalist at the helm of it. She just felt to anchor the show, and she didn't want to be that person. She wanted to be able to come in and out of the show when she felt like it. So that's how I got it. And and then while I was at The View, I had been 9 years in, and the Today Show came to me. Oh, and while I was at The View, actually, The Millionaire came to me, Michael Davies, because they were moving it into syndication, and Regis Philbin didn't want to do syndication, and so this guy came to me, Michael Davies, who ran Millionaire, and asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said, "Yeah, I love the show." So I was doing both, The View and Millionaire, and then 9 years into The View, I get a call from Jeff Zucker at NBC, and he said, "I want to meet you." And I said, "Well, I'm kind of busy. I'm going from show to show." He said, "I'll pick you up from The View and drive you over to your taping of Millionaire." And on that 2-minute drive, he said, "No one knows this yet, but Katie Couric is leaving, and we'd like you to replace her." I remember, I'll never forget saying, this is, you have moments where you disappoint yourself. I'm ashamed that I did say this, but I said, "Aren't you skewing old?" And I fought against ageism forever, but I don't know why it came out. And he said, "No, I believe in talent. That's what I'm skewing towards." And I just said, "Okay, touche, Mr. Zucker, thank you." And I was not a morning person. I'm still not. Never been my thing. But he was very smart. He said, he asked me to meet. He asked me to meet Matt, and he asked me to meet the executive producer of the show, and then somebody else. By the time I met them all, I just said, "You know what, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it. I should do it." And I ended up having it was a fabulous experience, but I'm not a morning person. And after 5 years, I just said, I'm living a life where I don't even sleep, So I felt I was constantly being pushed and pulled by the show, and you're always prepping, and it just, I don't know.
It was too much at the time.
It was too much. If you have to really love it. And for somebody like, for example, Savannah and Hoda now, who are fabulous, they are morning people. They like that. Matt was a morning person. If you're a morning person, I think it helps a lot. I loved doing the show, but for the rest of the day, I was just really tired. And I was going from the Today Show. I didn't stop doing Millionaire. I continued to do Millionaire. So I was doing up at 2 a.m., and then my day ended at 6:30 or something.
Too hard. And was Millionaire a big transition from what you were doing to this kind of game show?
People asked me if it was or why I would do a game show. And I said, well, first of all, I happen to love that show. As a viewer, I had watched it with my family from the time Regis started it. He was unbelievable in that role. And it was also, why not? But as it turns out, my definition of the host of Millionaire, the way I saw that role, was you needed to, these people are coming on television. Most of them have never been on television before, 99.9%. They were nervous. It's a lot of pressure. The lights, the music, the sound effects of that show were extremely intimidating and meant to be. And then they were surrounded by an audience in like a arena setting and with a spotlight on them. And I said, my job is to make these folks as comfortable as I can, as quickly as I can, so that they can be their best selves. They got here because they took the test and they passed it. They know how to do this, but nerves can get to you. So my reporting skills, my interviewing skills were essential.
And
I knew how to talk to somebody. I knew how to draw them out. I knew how to, make them the focus, make them the storyline, make them feel important about their place and comfortable in their place.
And as I recall, you spent doing this, 11 years?
11 years, yeah.
Wow. And the show, of course, syndicated thousands of episodes.
Right. Well, when you do a game show, like we're doing 25 words or less now, you shoot, it's an interesting thing because you shoot it as a block. So we actually only shoot 6 weeks in the studio, or now my satellite studio in New York and the studio in LA, at least that has been since 2020. So you're shooting 6 shows a day for 6 weeks for a total of between 175 and 180 shows. So in that 6 weeks, you're exhausted, and it's performance. So you rise to the occasion, and you know how to do it. You pace yourself, whatever, and it's fun. But then it's done. You've done your entire year. And when I first got Millionaire, Pat Sajak, I was at some event, and Pat Sajak said to me, "Don't tell anybody about this gig." He said, because it's kind of a scam. And he was talking about his show was the same. He said, I do this for a certain number of weeks, and then I go off and I golf and I travel and I do whatever else he does. And I thought, yeah, it's not so bad.
And he's still doing it.
And he's still doing it, and he's fantastic.
And are you having fun doing 25 words or less?
I'm having a great time. I miss being at the studio in Los Angeles because I made so many friends. The people on the show are wonderful. On the other hand, we created this little satellite staff here in New York of just 5 of us. It's in my home. We had one of our makeup artist, Bradford Knight, is an unbelievable chef and a cook, baker. So once a week, he'd make a cake for us. We would hang out. It was always, we did it in the fall, so the weather would be beautiful. And it was like being like at a little mini resort for everybody because it was just being at somebody's home.
Right, and
it was so laid back and fun. Yeah, and we loved each other. We still do. There's only 5 people, and we were tested every day, so we felt very safe and the whole thing.
And you're not traveling. I remember in the beginning, one of your reasons for changing what you were doing was you didn't have to travel that much.
Right. When I took the job with 25 Words or Less, I knew it was an LA show, and because I really love LA and I have a lot of friends there, and I love hiking in the hills and all of that in the canyons. I thought, I'll do 6 weeks out there. I think that's great. But travel per se, no. The last trip I took, Joan, was in April. There is a cruise line, and now I'm going to blank. Oh, my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. This is embarrassing.
Don't worry about it. And
but I do because I like to give them credit. So they do river cruises, Avalon. And they had a new boat that was supposed to be launched in 2020 to go along the Danube. And they had named it The View. So they were in some meeting in 2019, and they said, who would like to christen this ship? Meredith Vieria, because she was the original host of The View. They just thought it was a cute little tie-in. So the cruise got canceled in 2020, but this past April, I was able to go, and I was able to take my daughter Lily and her fiance Charlie.
How
they came
great!
with me. And I was nervous to travel. To be honest with you, it was my first time since the pandemic broke out. But the protocol, I felt very good about it, and the whole thing. And it was a very small group of people on this ship, only industry people who write about travel.
How much fun.
And it was, what it made me realize, how much you miss being part of the world. You just, at the end of the day, what makes us human is this need to connect with each other. And it's not just over Zoom, you know?
No, it's been a tough time.
To have it. It's been a tough time.
But fortunately, things are great. And as you mentioned in the beginning, your husband is doing fine. Please say hello to him.
He's doing really well. Yeah. I know. He said say hi to my girlfriend. So you're high up on his list, I'll tell you.
And, of course, you've got a wedding coming up, so you've got a lot of great things. Thank you,
I have
Meredith.
no reason to complain. Thank you, Joan. It's always such a pleasure.
To you. Say hi to everyone. We'll talk again. Meredith Vieria.
Okay.
Hello, folks. Larry Kudlow here. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Please go to freegoldguide.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.